In the span of just 13 years, he built an empire that stretched from Greece to India, from Eastern Europe to the Arabian Peninsula. And when he died, much of the ancient world mourned. So who was this legendary leader and how did he conquer the known world? Welcome to my channel. Today we will answer the extraordinary question, how did Alexander the Great conquer the known world? Early life during the classical period of ancient Greece, the small kingdom of Macedon dominated the rest of Greece. At the heart of this tiny state lived a boy named Alexander. He was born in 356 BC at the royal palace in Pella, the capital of Macedon. His father was King Philip II, and his mother, Olympias, was a princess from the nearby kingdom of While most accounts agree on these basic details, some historians questioned whether Alexander was actually related to Achilles, the famed Greek hero from Homer's Iliad. Whether or not this is true, young Alexander grew up hearing tales of heroism and glory, and it inspired him to pursue martial excellence. When Alexander was 14 years old, his father sent him to the great philosopher Aristotle for 3 years of education. The curriculum was designed to make Alexander a well-rounded leader, covering subjects like literature, philosophy, poetry, science, and rhetoric. After his studies were complete, Philip reorganized his army and made Alexander his general. Together, they won several victories against the Persians and the But after Philip was assassinated by one of his bodyguards, 2-year-old Alexander suddenly found himself king of Macedon. At first, the other Greek city-states refused to acknowledge him as their sovereign because he wasn't a true Greek. They lived on the Aegean Sea, while Macedon was a landlocked kingdom far to the north. Alexander had to prove himself worthy before he could earn their respect. This would take time and effort, but he was up to the challenge. Trying to power the Greeks considered the Persians their eternal enemy. 4 centuries. The two civilizations clashed in the region between the Aegean Sea and the Persian Gulf. In 338 BC, Philip had conquered most of Greece and established a confederacy with the other cities. Now Alexander inherited this alliance, which meant he was in control of a massive army that was eager to fight. The Persian king, Darius III, decided to take advantage of the power vacuum in Greece. He encouraged the Macedonian enemies, like the Spartans and the Athenians, to rebel against their new king. But Alexander crushed the revolt and turned his attention towards the Persian king. In 336, Alexander crossed into Asia Minor with 20,000 soldiers. His goal was to punish the Persians for inciting a rebellion within his own empire. But soon enough, he had a chance encounter that would change history forever. Before we continue, let us know in the comments below what fact about Alexander surprised you the most so far. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated. Major battles in the banks of the Granicus River in 334 BC. Alexander's army faced the Persians, but it was unclear who would win. The Macedonian infantry charged forward and fought with the long spears called sarissa. Meanwhile, the cavalrymen broke through the enemy lines. As the fighting continued, both sides suffered heavy losses. But in the end, the Macedonians triumphed. Many of Alexander's soldiers died, but he had proven that his army was strong enough to stand toe-to-toe with the Persians. Alexander wanted to secure his supply line to the Greek city of But to get there, he needed to pass through the Cilician Gates, a narrow mountain pass that was guarded by the Persian king Memnon. Alexander's army waited outside the gates until Memnon was ready to attack. When he finally marched his men out of the pass, he was met with a devastating sight. Alexander's forces were charging up the hill toward him. With no time to react, Memnon's troops were slaughtered. Although this battle only lasted an hour, it was one of the most decisive moments of the war. It demonstrated Alexander's military genius and marked the beginning of the end for the Persian Empire. But Alexander was not done yet. He set his sights on the fertile valleys of the Nile River in Egypt. The local ruler, Pharaoh Ptolemy I, tried to resist, but he had no chance against Alexander's war machine. On the banks of the Nile, Alexander led a parade of 60 elephants into battle. Each elephant had a tower with soldiers inside that fired arrows at the Egyptians. Needless to say, they were utterly defeated. After conquering Egypt, Alexander ventured eastward across the deserts of Arabia and into Mesopotamia, where he was greeted by the Persian king Darius. On the banks of the river Tigris, Alexander's army faced off against the Persians, each side wanting the upper hand. The noise of war echoed across the battlefield as the two armies clashed. The Macedonians stood firm, in the face of adversity, and their discipline and training paid off. Against all odds, they emerged victorious, securing their place in history. The empire expands with the Persian king Darius on the run. Alexander's army pushed further east into the heart of the Persian Empire. Finally, the two armies met again in northwest Iran at the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC here. The Macedonians were outnumbered, but Alexander's tactics and strategies helped them come out on top. During the battle, Alexander's horse was killed, and he switched to a chariot. He rode a chariot into the thick of battle, shouting orders as his men fought to secure their position. The Persians were eventually routed. Darius fled, leaving behind his family and his throne. Alexander pursued him for weeks, but he managed to escape across the mountains into Central Asia. Now that the Persian kings were running for their lives, Alexander seized their vast empire. First, he founded the city of Alexandria in Egypt, on the site of a former Egyptian city called The city quickly became a hub of commerce and culture, serving as a link between the Greeks and the people of the East. Soon, scholars from around the world gathered there to learn and exchange ideas. Even today, it remains one of the most important cities in Egypt. Then Alexander headed to Susa, Persepolis, and Babylon, where he lived a life of luxury, enjoying the fruits of his labor. However, as his empire expanded, so did the logistical problems. The communication and travel time between Macedonia and India was too long. Soldiers couldn't be deployed fast enough to put down rebellions. Moreover, his army was tired of fighting and wanted to go home. Alexander knew he couldn't keep expanding without a strong navy. But unfortunately, he never got the chance to build one. Death and legacy in 323 BC. Alexander fell ill with a fever and died in Babylon at the age of just 32. There are many theories surrounding his death, such as malaria, typhoid fever, or even assassination. But nobody knows for sure what killed him. After his death, his empire was divided among his generals. And that marked the end of the age of Alexander the Great. However, his legacy lived on. For centuries, stories were told and retold about his exploits in war and his thirst for knowledge. Ancient authors like Plutarch immortalized him in writing. And even today, he continues to inspire awe in those who study his life. Thanks to Alexander's conquests, the Greek language and culture spread throughout the Middle East. Trade flourished along the Silk Roads between Greece and India, and many Greek city-states prospered due to the exchange of goods. So what do you think? What was the most amazing part of Alexander's life story? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos. See you next time! And here is another interesting video for you. Alexander the Great. How did he die?